Travis Wingitzel. I was born and raised Mormon in the Covenant. Born and raised in the Covenant parents. Grew up doing all the things that Mormons do. And the scriptures taught me to pursue the truth. And so I became an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. And yet, all other Mormons who were born and raised in the Covenant pursued a different path in life than I did. And as a result, everybody, including those who leave the church, have a completely foreign and unknown interpretation of Mormonism. I don't recognize what Mormons are talking about. I don't recognize what critics are talking about. It is not the religion that I can read plainly from the scriptures. But to have both critics and Mormons just blurt out the most absurd arguments of hate to defend their position, whether it's Mormons that the church is true or critics that the church is not true. I just hang my head down that Brigham Young won. He did exactly what he wanted to do to Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon. And he won. You guys let him win. Had another critic comment today who listens to the critical videos because he's just parroting it, saying that this church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, was started by Joseph Smith. This Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was started by Heber J. Grant. You're going, what? 1923, after the October Conference, he finally incorporated the church with $1 million. They had collected enough tithing to get back on their feet. As a matter of fact, of any of you who have not been following me to know what I'm talking about, to be clueless of what I'm talking about, to live in denialism. No, Joseph Smith is. He started the church. So disgusting. And it's even more disgusting because Mormons are clueless as to what bicentennial year this is. Because the church didn't tell you. Which means you're not doing your study of the scriptures. Or at least you're not doing it right. Because everybody who's seriously studying scriptures would know exactly the significance of this year. I shouldn't have to refer to the second vision. There are some basic facts of Mormonism that both critics and Mormons purposely screw up. That they have reached their conclusion and they don't give a damn about the truth. Joseph Smith organized his church, the Church of Christ. No Jesus. Just Christ. On the 6th of April, 1830. And so when you read from the Doctrine and Covenants and from the Joseph Smith history, you see the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Have you never wondered what happened? Where was the change? We have the Joseph Smith Papers. And maybe you're among those who know that in 1834, the name of the church was voted to be changed by the leadership. That's how name changes take place in Joseph's church. What was the name? Church of Latter-day Saints. When you read the Book of Mormon, as Nelson told you over conference, that the name of the church is significant. And notice again, no Jesus. And so then you get to section 115. Supposedly, Joseph Smith said that in 1838. But he also did the Joseph Smith history in 1838. Why is there a contradiction? Well, obviously Joseph is wrong in the history that got published. 115 didn't get published until a year before Brigham died. Did you know that? I mean, that requires extra and above study. But with our modern technology and Google search engines, you can quickly find out that information. See, back in my day as a kid, I wouldn't have known where to look. And so, April 26th, for section 115, and then after that, Joseph Smith history, Joseph Smith goes back to the 1834 name. But you have to see the Joseph Smith papers to realize that's what happened. And you see Willard Richards' name as being the one who inserted Jesus. And so that should put in question section 115. I mean, yeah, it requires a level of intelligence to be able to make that connection. But for all viewers, both Mormon and critic, to denounce me as a liar and not knowing what I'm talking about because your spiritual witnesses contradict me. This is a basic fact of Mormon history, guys. Every conclusion you make in your videos as a critic or a Mormon, or in your personal life, if you don't go so far as to making videos, must have these as facts. Joseph Smith never called his name of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was Brigham Young. And then you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Why did Brigham Young? He was a missionary. Became the president. When? 1838. What happened in 1838? These are things you're supposed to research and study. This is Mormon history. You can't go around lying to the world because you refuse to study history about the church. And so who is our Christ? If Joseph Smith did not name Jesus in his name of his church, who is our Christ? Because again, I refer you to the Book of Mormon that Nelson spoke about in conference. And if it's Emmanuel, Amen, why hasn't Joseph Smith spoken his name more regularly and frequently? And then, of course, it should already have rung in your head why the first is called the Melchizedek priesthood is because Melchizedek was such a great high priest. Before his day, it was called the Holy Priesthood after the order of the Son of God. Now, the name. But out of respect or reverence to the name, where was the name? Son of God is not a name. I mean, yeah, you could do Godson. There might be that kind of a name, but I don't think so. Son is usually for the Scandinavian countries, son of, or Ben, but then there's supposed to be another name following it. It's Emmanuel, but out of respect or reverence to the name Emmanuel of the Supreme Being, to avoid the too frequent repetition of his name. They, the church, in ancient days, called that priesthood after Melchizedek, or the Melchizedek priesthood. And there's a Paleo-Hebrew-Egyptian fun thing in that, but that requires extra study that none of you have pursued. So why would you not believe me when I point out Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian? Oh, right. Because of verse 91 in this same section. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto Moses. Oops. Who snuck that in, Bruce R.? Did somebody sneak that past you? They don't connect this to Joseph Smith History, verse 40, which is the man like Moses. That's the Jewish Christ. That's Joseph's Christ. His name's Emmanuel. But they put in the footnote for 91b, section 103, verse 16, Oh, that is funny. They would not put Joseph Smith History 140. I wanted to reference section 103, verse 16 in my recommendation when we did Deuteronomy. But David Gaunt came in and said, it's Jesus. Section 103, verse 16, if you're not going to look it up, says that our Christ, in the learning of the Jews, will be a Mormon, not Jesus. And so Mormons are supposed to be looking for the latter-day Mormon who will be their Christ. And if you're confused about Jesus, because Jesus is the one true Lord, you're refusing to accept study in history. You're purposely leaving out facts of history that would explain why you're a dumbass. And so Mormons are supposed to be looking for a Mormon who shows the fruit of being a seer, a revelator, a translator, and a prophet, having all the gifts of God which he bestows upon the true head of the church. But you can't accept this because you're stuck on Joseph Smith passed on succession to Brigham Young because Brigham Young said so. And you don't catch the red flags. This is not Joseph's church. Nothing is his except for the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith's works, which have been misinterpreted. When you read in the Book of Mormon, 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 2, and it says, in the learning of the Jews, why are both Mormon and critics so stubborn that you refuse to believe me, you refuse to listen, you refuse to respect me, to tell you that it's the learning of the Jews. It's not Jesus. And then you argue, but Jesus is in the text. It's in the name of our church. Mormons have been sending me comments lately. The Book of Mormon is true. What are you talking about? The one guy I allowed his comment to go through and then gave a response to, have never heard back from him since. I have confounded him. And all he had to do was watch more of my videos. And it was over the video I did about Mormon extremism. He responded to my video of Mormon extremism with, the Book of Mormon is true. He just exposes himself as stupid. And so how are the successors of Joseph Smith's church supposed to be made? Well, you see, the president of the Quorum of 12 automatically becomes the president of the church upon the death of the president of the church. How God. I've had debates with a Mormon who was that stupid. An old man. Again, section 107. This time in verse 22. And both critic and Mormon refused to acknowledge this. I have witnessed Mormons confused as to why we do what we do, because it's not scripturally based. And they point to the scripture, saying, why aren't we doing this? And bishops and leaders just have everybody ignore him. Nobody wants to answer, because the answer is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not Joseph's church. There were to become 3 presiding high priests, not one with 2 counselors. And they get actually voted, not a sustaining vote. Oh, I sustain you. Look at me. I'm raising my hand. Do you see me? That's called a loyalty oath. There's a big difference. But the church deceives you. They actually call it a sustaining vote by the upraised right arm. And so when you plug in all the other things of Mormonism, knowing these basic facts of Joseph's church, you're now supposed to go, oh, yeah, that's not what Joseph did. That's not the way Joseph had it. And there may be some things that you aren't sure of. You know, tithing. Did Joseph Smith actually practice tithing? Is that actually his? Well, you'd have to do some research. But with the modern technology, it's real easy to do. That section was put out after Joseph died. And guess what year? 1838. Those kinds of patterns are supposed to be red flags for you. But then the big one. Was Joseph Smith a polygamist? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says yes. But neither of you, Mormon and critic, did your research on 1838. It was the Danites who were the polygamists in secret. And it was the Danites who went with Brigham Young to this valley, still practicing it in secret, until Brigham Young in 1851, in defiance and rebellion and seditious conspiracy against the United States of America, ordered all Mormons publicly to practice polygamy. No longer in secret. But all of the sealings that Willard Richards had done. Oh, Willard Richards again, huh? Again, these are things that are supposed to be red flags for you. Willard Richards was in Carthage jail and he survived. Do you These are red flags for you. Willard Richards survives, but he changes the name of the church in the Joseph Smith history and in other documents. He was the one who supposedly filled out all of the ceilings of Joseph Smith to underage girls in 1843. And yet he's doing it. Two sisters, 14 and 16 years old. These are supposed to be red flags for you. You're not supposed to get angry at me. You're not supposed to ignore me because I'm wrong because your spiritual witness said otherwise. These are facts of history. On September 6th, found documents and found objects that the church wanted kept hidden. You're supposed to use those to search for the truth. But the September 6th tried to harmonize what they had found with their membership in the church. They biased their research. And thus their research conclusions were false. Joseph was not a witch. Jewish Kabbalah is not witchcraft. And it is a horrible, bigoted, racist thing to say. Because Jews are both a religion and a culture, an ethnic group. Even though Kabbalah is not Orthodox Judaism. So, I mean, I did the hour video yesterday and then broke it down because the way I structured the video allowed me to do that as I got the inspiration for that. I can keep going. All of the prophet, seer, revelator, translator stuff. Guess who's got the gift, guys? If you've been following me all these years, it's me. But you're not listening to this point. That's the big frustration. Is because ex-Mormons and former Mormons, you guys are a part of the prophecy too. And that's the sad thing, is you're not listening either. You're not going back to the church. Good, you shouldn't. You're supposed to leave, and you at least did that, but you're blaming Joseph. How do I get Mormons to leave like you did, but for the right reasons? See, I didn't even bring up the inverted pentagram here and the other blatant outward symbols that this church is evil.